So we are pleased, honored, privileged to welcome Bobi Wine. Award-winning musician. Prior to entering politics, he is now president of the National Unity Platform, leading Ugandan opposition party. He previously served as member of parliament for Kyadondo County East in Wakiso district. Bobi Wine is a trailblazer in African politics. He contested the presidency twice, as you know, in 2021 and again in 2026, challenging long-serving incumbent President Museveni. And as you all know, both elections were widely condemned by opposition groups, civil society organizations, and international observers for falling short of international standards for free and fair elections, with allegations of irregularities, voter suppression, and state violence. Throughout his political career, Bobi Wine has positioned himself as a leading voice against authoritarian government and governance and systemic corruption under Museveni's decades-long rule. His activism has included mass mobilization, civic engagement campaigns, and public advocacy for democratic reform, often at significant personal risk, including house arrest, detention, and legal challenges. He is an inspiration. We are equally honored to welcome Barbara Kyagulanyi, philanthropist, author of Golden Memories of a Village Belle, and founder of Caring Hearts Uganda, an organization focused on healthcare access for adolescent girls. In addition to her professional work, she has been a visible and consistent partner to Bobi throughout his political journey. She has participated in civic engagement initiatives, appeared on the campaign trail, and publicly supported calls for political reform. In the course of this engagement, she has personally experienced violence and state-sponsored assaults, underscoring the broader impact that political contestation can have on families and women. She too is an inspiration. We are also joined today by Professor Martha Wilfahrt, Professor of Political Science at UC Berkeley, whose scholarship focuses on African politics and the political economy of development. Her research examines historical legacies, redistributive politics, and state-society relations, as well as the practice and ethics of field research in the Global South. And I warmly recommend her book, Post-Colonial Legacies in Post-Colonial Politics. And finally, we also welcome Dr. Shingirai Taodzera, also Professor of Political Science at UC Davis, whose research centers specifically on Uganda, with this broader political economy of East and Southern Africa. His work examines the governance of high-value extractive and industries and explores how natural resource development shapes state formation. He's currently developing a project entitled Nations Within a State and the Emerging Hydrocarbons Industry in Uganda, and turning that into a book as well. So I'd like us all to put our hands together to welcome all four panelists. And I will hand over to Professors Martha and Professor Shingi.
Thank you so much, James. It's a great honor to be here, sitting next to Honorable Kyagulanyi and Madam Barbara Kyagulanyi. We are really grateful that you took the time to come and engage in conversation with us here, and we look forward to our discussions this evening. So I have the privilege of asking the first question, and I'm going to direct this to you, Honorable Kyagulanyi. You launched your political career a few years ago in 2017, formally, with a successful run for a seat in Parliament as an independent candidate for Kyadondo East constituency without the backing of any of the powerful political parties in Uganda. But before then, you had a very strong record through your music and activism of social and political engagement. So our first question is, what made you decide to formally launch a political career and become a campaigner for freedom in Uganda?
It is on. Thank you very much. Good evening. Greetings, friends. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Professor, for having us. And thank you, Professor. And I'm honored to be here on this panel with my wife, Bobi. My name is not Bobi Wine. That is a stage name. It's a musical stage name. My real name is Kyagulanyi Sentamo Robert Mitembo. Unfortunately, or fortunately, on the unfortunate part is that my musical name overtook my real name. It stole my identity away. So when they talk about Bobi Wine, somebody is going to expect a white guy until I show up with my black face. Yeah, but the advantageous part is that it makes it easier to pronounce me. And where I come from, a country that is stained with tribalism, when you call me Bobi Wine, I can either be from the northern part or the western part or the central part or wherever. So I'm just another human being. So please feel comfortable to call me Bobi or Bobi Wine. I'm glad to be here. You asked me what inspired or influenced my decision. I wish it was inspiration. It was not. It was desperation. I was pushed. I did not like politics. Neither did my wife. My wife and I struggled so much in our earlier days, and we were pretty successful. We promised each other we would retire at 35 and just go enjoy our life and be on cruises and all that. And we had more or less achieved it. But when I got to 35, maybe another calling became even louder. There's a story that I always give friends, that I had been seeing the injustice until it happened to me. That's a lengthy story for another day. So I realized that my comfort zone was only comfortable to me as an individual, and it was only short-lived. I would see what was happening, and it would, provoke me many times, until when I was having a conversation with a friend, I said, okay, now, since the parliament cannot come to the ghetto should go to the parliament. So when there was an opportunity to go to the platforms where these things are said formally, I mean, I'd been talking about all these issues in my music, but I came off as just another artist. I was like my brother there. I had my long dreadlocks. I never used to put on these formal wears. In fact, I'm still getting used to them. So when I saw an opportunity to elevate the ghetto voice, I took that opportunity. I did not know it would lead to another and another and another. So 2027, I ran for a seat in parliament. Even if I was running against a ruling party candidate and a main opposition candidate, I secured 80% of the vote. And that spoke volumes of how much people wanted a different voice. And that is the voice that has always been pushed in me to the present day.
I have a follow-up question for Bobi, which is, I was wondering if you could take us through the circumstances and conversations surrounding Bobi's decision to become a political leader. This has obviously transformed your family life. You've not just been on the sidelines, but very much at the center of this struggle, but you've also both paid an enormous personal cost, right? You are not retired at 35, for example. So I was wondering if you could just walk through sort of how you thought about it then and how you think about it now.
Okay, when a professor is asking you a question, and she is as fast as she is, you have to say, pardon me? Okay, the last part of the question.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to hear your thoughts on the ways in which this has impacted you and how you think about the decision of Bobi entering politics in retrospect, because this has probably been, the biggest change of your life, or an unexpected change in your life, perhaps would be the way to put it.
So thank you very much, Prof, for your question. I am glad to be here this evening. Marrying a person from the creatives, marrying an entertainer, gives you room to just sway around wherever they go. because every minute they have an idea. And every passing day, they throw away some ideas and pick new ones. So I married a man who kept seeing things and tried to deliver a message about different things, the topics, the everyday life. So creatives normally want to explain things very plainly for majority of the public. So my husband saw what he saw, sang about it. He acted in plays where he featured as some characters from the society. And we got to a point where he kept saying, that's enough. I have talked enough. I think talking is not what works. And I think our people are like children, monkey see, monkey do. So I think we need to show people what has to be done. And you don't show them by just giving them instructions. You dive into the mud and show them practically what happens. Now, you know what they talk about, birds of a feather? So this is a person that brings out some characteristics I did not know about myself. And you know, when a tomato that's a bit rotten gets in the basket, that's what happened to our household. Okay, not the rotten tomato. You know how you get the sparkles of a bride. You come and hug her. She has all these sparkles on her, and then you go with some on your cheek. That's what happened to me. I did not ever think I would end up on this platform talking politics. Not in my life. We didn't do politics in our home. We did not discuss politics where I grew up. But he kept talking to me. You know, when you're a priest or you're a reverend, you first recruit your family. I was the first recruit. And he explained things plainly before he went out to explain to you. So creatives have rehearsals. I was the rehearsal stage. He rehearsed everything on me and our family. And by the time he came out to the public, he knew what he had to say and what to do. What did it do to me? It made me a better person. Because now I had been fighting for a betterment of the girl child, especially in the schools. It made me a better person. I and my friends had founded an organization where we went to the schools in villages to help teach the girls about menstrual health and equip them with material to use during that time of the month. We had been making change, but then, you know what NGOs do? They do work to support the government. But after he had been talking to me after a long time, I realized the government is not doing enough. So I think it's my new job is to make the government know that we can't do everything for them. They need to pull up their socks. So it gave me more meaning, and it gave me a bigger voice. And surprisingly, we are seated here talking about politics and how people are governed to a bigger audience. So it made fundamental change in my life, and I'm grateful for that. I am.
Thank you so much for that. And still on that theme of, you know, your activism and your family life, as you know, being a freedom fighter comes at considerable cost in different ways. As you've seen with other freedom fighters like Nelson Mandela, who were fighting, you know, the colonial system, and other freedom fighters in the contemporary era, like you, Morgan Shingirai in Zimbabwe, among others. Their family lives have been, you know, significantly affected in some sense, in a very negative way. So how has, you know, your political activism impacted your political life, your family life, and also how have you managed to remain resilient and unwavering in light of all the attacks and harassment and persecution that you have faced from the Museveni regime?
Thank you. First of all, I want to apologize for the noise of the sound of the phone. It was Elon Musk. I switched him off. Never mind my jokes. We love to crack a joke every now and then and always argue with Bobi. that if we did not have that humor, maybe we would have died of depression. Fighting against a dictatorship is something I keep learning about even now. I knew it was dangerous. I knew it would take a toll on everything that we have and we are. I knew we were risking to lose everything, but I did not know the depth to which it would go. Of course, I'm in no place to assimilate myself to the great people like Nelson Mandela, Morgan Shingirai, or even Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is in prison right now. I'm just another ghetto child who saw that being the only rich guy in a ghetto that has 10,000 poor people, I was just another poor person. So I thought I would take the moral decision to do what is right. That I have never regretted it, and I'm glad that my wife never regretted it. The toll that it takes, it goes beyond individual to family, but in the recent days, precisely 4 or 5 days, it again sank to another bottom and continues sinking. For example, as we speak right now, the wives, the daughters, and the mothers, I'm cognizant of the challenges of the fathers and the sons and the friends and the families, but I focus on the women because it hits different to see a mother of a political prisoner or a missing person crying and waking up every day hoping to see her son or her daughter, and the day passes, a month passes, a year passes, you see more gray hairs and more wrinkles painting on her face until she dies in misery. Seeing a young girl growing up, and she's a daughter of a political prisoner, of a missing person, and you see the toll that it takes to them. And then it goes to the wives. About 3 months ago, we buried the wife of our brother, John Bosco Chibalama, my neighbor who was abducted. And she spent 7 years searching for him, demanding for him, and hoping against hope that he will show up one day. She was the most vocal wife of a missing person until she was also found dead in her house. My wife herself, you know, she has tried as much as possible to be the decent and polite version of me, to the extent that she tries as much as possible when and she was right when she talked about rehearsal. Sometimes I talk to myself at home and I quarrel, and she tones me down that by the time I get to speak to the people, I'm less angry. But she was raided in her home when we were put under house arrest. She was beaten, she was stripped naked, filmed and humiliated, and all that. And I thought that is the worst that could happen. But 4 days ago, is it 4 days yet? Maybe 3 days? The wife of the spokesperson of our party called Alex Waiswamufumbiro died. She fell sick, the husband was picked up. No clear case why he was put in prison. But, I mean, those that talk to us of record, they say because he talks too much. He was put in prison and denied the right to nurse or see his dying wife. And she passed away. He was even denied the mandatory bail to be able to lay his wife to rest. And these are just the random examples that I can pick, but so many examples of people that have had to give immeasurable sacrifices in this fight. Most especially, the people that, if you like, are not so involved, our wives, our mothers, our daughters, and our distant relatives. So everybody has had to pay a price, but the price that is paid by the women, most importantly, our women, our wives, is unimaginable. But to see that they still stand firm. When my wife was beaten while they were demanding for my whereabouts, the first statement she made, she said, "Bobi, wherever you are, don't show up. Keep running from these people." As you're clapping, I got concerned. I said, "What is this that I married?" Because she was tougher, much tougher than a human being. The same thing that comes from the mothers. Every time I go to see the mothers of the missing people, political prisoners, I go with this heavy guilt on me. But to meet them and they hug me and say, "Son, keep going. I know my son is dead, or I know my son is missing, or I know my son is in jail, but you can only honor him or her by keeping the course." So that keeps us going, and we keep putting one foot in front of the other.
So as you were just discussing, following your contestation in the January elections, you both faced intimidation, physical harassment, etc. And so we were wondering if you could talk us through how you made the decision to go into exile, because you obviously had to weigh that decision as a family, but also as the leader of the main opposition movement, and there's obviously certain difficulties that come from trying to lead an opposition from abroad. So we were hoping you could talk to us about how you thought about that decision, what you think the challenges are, but maybe also some advantages, if you see any.
Baby, what a question. How did we make a decision to go to exile? Did we ever make that decision? Are we in exile?
If you have watched our documentary, there is a section where in 2020 we tried to discuss our lives out of Uganda because there were signs that showed that we couldn't stay in that country the way it was. Now, 2025 was worse, was bad. And in our language they say, "Kauka kali kakulumyeko."
An insect that has ever bitten you?
When you see it, you run away from it. We have never planned to come to exile. I gave you a starting point. Continue from there.
So she talked about a documentary that was done focusing on us. It is called Bobi Wine, the People's President. Those that have not watched it, I would encourage you to watch it. It's on Hulu. It kind of gives a beginning story. We ran for president in 2021, where we won fair and square. Yeah, unfortunately, you clapped, but we did not take the presidency. But we still won. There was brutality, hundreds of people were killed, who were put under house arrest. The usual textbook modus operandi for dictators. General Museveni declared himself winner. We were kept under house arrest for a few weeks, and then he swore in himself for a few months. We were observed and followed by the military, and somehow things got back to normal. So that was our expectation this time around. We went into this election not expecting to be declared, but we knew that 2021 was basically to awaken a generation that had been detached from politics. We wanted to show them how important it is for them to connect to their politics. And we brag about that success because we succeeded. From the market vendors, to the common farmers, to the ordinary ghetto youth in the ghetto, from all corners of the country, the people of Uganda, young and old, educated and illiterate, rich or poor, started paying attention to their politics. We consider that a win. However, we know that we have a government that thrives on division and intimidation. Our country has more than 50 tribes. I come from the most populous tribe, the Baganda. Bobi comes from the western tribe, the Banyankole, where General Museveni comes from. And there had been that narrative of tribalism and division. So we went into this election mainly to unite the people, and we succeeded in doing so. That was a win. However, as soon as the election was ended, it started going down south. In 2021, we had a different army commander. There was a lot of impunity, but I can say they were a little bit more thoughtful. Now, about a year or two ago, the Ugandan president appointed his son to be the chief of defense forces, the military commander. His name is Muhoozi Kainerugaba. I keep promoting him. Please, when you go on X, formerly Twitter, look for Muhoozi Kainerugaba. That is General Museveni's son. That is the commander of military forces. If he has not tweeted today, maybe tweeted yesterday, or will tweet tomorrow, that I'm looking for Bobi Wine to cut off his testicles. That is what he says. He does not say it for fun. He will threaten citizens, and we will follow through, and we will implement that. Because he promised to abduct and torture my bodyguard. He picked him, tortured him, shaved him, and he did that and posted on social media. When my home was raided, my wife tortured, beaten, and humiliated, he was filming and taking pictures. And 2-3 days later, he tweeted pictures of my wife on the ground with a gunman standing over her. And he was just stamping, yeah, this is when we raided Kabobi. You know, when somebody puts K-A, Ka, before your name, is meaning that you are the small version of yourself. So he calls me Kabobi because he believes I'm a smaller version of myself. Yeah, it would be funny if it wasn't sad. So now that is the commander of armed forces in Uganda, and also the son of the president. He is above the law. He does everything. In this election, they killed so many of our people, in hundreds. But for him, he tweeted that he had personally, he was feeling ashamed because he only killed 24 of my friends. And he was praying that I'm the 25th to be killed. He promised to raid my house. And we got inside information that it was happening the day after election. So yes, we were put under house arrest on the 15th of January. As soon as we cast our votes and went back home, our home was surrounded by the military. We were under house arrest on the 15th of January, on the 16th of January. So on the night of 16th of January, they started jumping over the fence to get into our compound. I had learned a lesson in 2021, so I very quickly turned into James Bond. And somehow found a creative way out of my home, so they didn't find me. However, they continued looking for me. About a week later, they raided again, and that's when they humiliated my wife. And we agreed, because I was talking to my wife on phone, we agreed that it was no longer safe for us to be in the country. I advised my wife. She is also not very easy because she was able to escape from her hospital bed and found her way out of the country. I did not leave immediately because I was debating within my mind between leaving my country and staying. Leaving my country would mean going to exile. And here you are, Professor, claiming that I'm in exile. I'm yet to accept that. Maybe I'm still in denial. And I was persuaded, like I'm still persuaded today, that my fight is in Uganda. That I have to be there to inspire, but most importantly, to embolden the millions that are on ground fighting. But my wife, maybe because she's my wife, and friends, especially in the diaspora, were arguing that there are no dead heroes, and that if I was eliminated, then it would hurt our struggle more than me fighting from afar. And indeed, we had a friend called Alexei Navalny in Russia. He boldly went back to Russia to face Putin. He's dead now. So knowing that we were facing a lunatic called Muhoozi Kainerugaba, my friends thought that it was better for me to first exit the country and realign, make sure we call out the international community, and indeed allow me to use this opportunity to call out the international community, because while this is happening, the United States is in business with Uganda. The European Union and most Western countries are in business with Uganda. So it was important for me to use that voice while it's still there, to come and make a case for Uganda, and thereafter I can go and face whatever is there to face. That is when we make the decision to leave our country. Yeah. Was that not your question?
It was our question.
Thank you so much for that answer. So our next question is to do with the mobilization and the strategies that you've been employing in Uganda, especially in the run-up to elections. What's your comment on, or what are your thoughts on the status of Uganda's opposition political parties? So for example, in different countries, we've noticed that opposition political parties have built coalitions, and those electoral coalitions have ended up unseating long-serving dictators. So in what ways have you built solidarity with other opposition movements in Uganda and also outside of Uganda in different parts of Africa? For example, Zimbabwe's Nelson Chamisa is an opposition political leader, and Julius Malema, whom I noticed you've also been in touch with in the past.
Thank you. In Uganda, it differs. First and foremost, I think I came in as a very abstract factor in the politics of our country. I was not in politics. I did not participate in politics at school. I was never in politics. So I just showed up as a voice. Now, to bring you to speed in Uganda it is not politics, it is struggle. In Uganda, there's no opposition or government. There are oppressors and the oppressed. In Uganda, there are no political parties per se. All this that we're talking about is on paper. I'm talking as a person that leads the main opposition party. Which opposition party we formed less than a month before the election of 2021. We started out as a loose movement called the People Power Movement. And many times when I'm talking to people, I tell them that we are not a political party. We just have a political party. But we are a liberation movement called the People Power Movement. Now, this movement started out after people were frustrated with quintessential politics and politicians. As you will realize, most dictatorships tend to create their own opposition. The good opposition that legitimizes their role. And that is what the case is in Uganda. However, there are people that are anti-status quo. People like Dr. Kizza Besigye, and now people like myself, and many that I work with. So in Uganda, because it is the oppressed and the oppressors are both in the ruling party and those existing so-called opposition parties. Many of them, their leaders are working within the system, like the so-called Minister for Constitutional Affairs, Norbert Mao and others. They are in bed with the regime, and they are the ones that are legitimizing the impunity and denying political prisoners bail. We have political prisoners that were arrested for only wearing a t-shirt that has the word freedom, and they've been in prison for up to 5 years. and the list continues. So when we showed up, the message that we've been pushing and we continue to push is not a message of this particular political party against this one. We are pushing a message of overturning the status quo, a message of people power, of ensuring that people get a vote. What we want in Uganda is to place power in the hands of Ugandans to make sure that a vote matters, because a vote does not matter. If a vote mattered, right now you'd be interviewing me from State House, Uganda. But a vote does not matter. So what we are struggling for now is to ensure that democracy reigns again, that people are empowered to vote and for that vote to matter. And this is how we go about it. I'm glad that we have the music. I was fairly popular when I was still a musician. I believe I'm still a little bit popular. And that helps us push our music in the unorthodox way. Because Uganda is the youngest population, the second youngest in the world after Niger. Our median age is 16. We have very young people. And those young people don't necessarily enjoy the formal political talk. That's why our music, our messages have been going through songs and spoken word and skits and poems and all that. And that's how we mobilize to the present day. We mobilize by telling people the truth, telling them not to look at us as politicians, but most importantly, to hold us accountable, not to subscribe to any political party, not even the one that I lead, but to subscribe to the truth. We believe that's the best way to hold us accountable and even to immunize us against future impunity and future betrayal of the values that we are professing right now. Oh yeah, thank you. No wonder we are a team. She reminded me, how are we organizing in Africa with other change-seeking forces? I prefer calling them change-seeking forces than political parties. I don't like that word, political party. The change-seeking forces in Zimbabwe, we're pretty close with our brother, Nelson Chamisa, who is the leading opposition personality in Zimbabwe. We are in touch with brothers and sisters in Kenya, in Tanzania. Unfortunately, our brother Tundu Lissu is in prison in Tanzania. Same impunity that was exported from Uganda to Tanzania. We're in touch with our brothers like Godwin Sifuna, Babu Owino, Winnie Odinga, and all those from Kenya. We are in touch with all change-seeking forces in Africa. But I always say that we need to be more in touch, more united, and more aggressive, because the bad guys are working so closely together. So we, the good guys, need to up our game.
I want to follow up on the question of youth, because Uganda has seen remarkable mobilization of youth in no small part because of your own work. But I was wondering if you could comment on what you see as being the biggest aspirations of youth and why you think the current regime has been so unable or perhaps unwilling to respond to those grievances. And since you're a politician, I also want to ask what you see as the most important policy changes that could be put in place in a country like Uganda to address some of those youth grievances.
I'm sorry, Professor. Is it the
trying to
English
speak
or the speed?
I'm just curious about youth and youth grievances in the country and why you think the government has been unable or unwilling to respond to youth grievances, and then what you see as policy changes that you would want to see put in place.
Thank you. What you want to go first, Mama?
Why do you think the youth are not being involved in change in their countries?
Sure.
In my opinion, I know it's his question, but I like to speak for young people because I work with young people. Young people are a threat. They are a threat to dictatorships because they do not follow the status quo. They want to destabilize everything because they want things to work for them the way they know. And because in most parts of Africa we have dictators whose main job is to keep power by all means, so what they do first is to silence the youth. And now young people do not want to be silenced, and they allowed, and they consider themselves and their futures. So they fight hard. They don't involve them because, first of all, they push hard and they're not going to settle for what is less. They want more, and they want better, and they want it now. And the dictators want the opposite. So it is better to keep their club of the elderly, do things the way they want, and keep the young people out. The only young people involved and included in the circle are those who have been indoctrinated and who show signs of keeping things the way they are right now. So it is, they are kept out because they are young and want better, and these leaders do not want to give it. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you. Maybe just to add on yours, Mama. The people in power back home, and largely in Africa, are in many ways disconnected from the realities. These are people that took power at my age, and they've been in power for 40 years and counting. So they have been, completely disconnected from the realities of the masses. Like Bobi said, their main preoccupation is to keep power and not to serve the people. But again, even when they involved young people, they involve either their own children, who don't amount to so much, and then those that are willing to serve their agendas. But most importantly, the young people are disconnected because what is going on back home does not favor them at all. We have the highest level of youth unemployment back home. And if the government is to deal with that, then that means empowering them and getting out of power. So what they choose is to keep the young people poor so that they can always grapple for the inducements that they give them to sing praises. That is how the regime has been able to subdue young people. And of course, those that have been awakened are only responded to with violence. The government has concentrated on building more prisons back in Uganda and also to, up their violent levels. You asked what our main policies would be. Well, I could spend a whole day going through that. But again, I would not even be half as eloquent as the many presentations that have been made on the floor of Parliament, in workshops that have taken so much money. But all this is only as good as the paper on which it's written. Nothing implemented. Why? Because of corruption. Our former president, Milton Obote, used to diagnose Uganda's problem as poverty, disease, and ignorance. Well, in my own opinion, not anymore. I believe our problem is corruption, and corruption. We lose 10 trillion shillings, like a third of our tax collection, to corruption. Who steals this money? The people around the president, because corruption is currency now. Every major politician has a corruption scandal, and that is what is used to keep them on leash. Our Speaker of Parliament is banned from coming to the US or the UK or Dubai because of corruption, but she is still the Speaker of Parliament. There was a huge scandal where they stole, not money this time, but iron sheets meant for the poorest people in Karamoja. And this scandal involved the Speaker of Parliament, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, the Minister for Ethics and Integrity, and a whole lot of other ministers. Well, they were acquitted. So we want to deal with that. Of course, as an
The
individual.
president says that they apologized. They were very apologetic. And he saw that from deep down their hearts, they were sorry. So he forgave them.
Well, how nice he is. The same president actually staged a charity walk, and that was codenamed Walk Against Corruption. But in his speech on that day, after the Inspector General of Government presented a proposal publicly to him, he said, Mr. President, we should have a lifestyle audit of these high-ranking government officials to see where did this person get the money to take the family for this expensive holiday? How does somebody drive a Maybach when we know the salary they get? You know what the president said? You see, you should go slow on those corrupt people, because if you're too harsh on them, they will invest that money elsewhere and not in Uganda. So that shows you that the person in charge of our country is the chief priest of corruption. So corruption is our main target when we take power. But I was saying that as an individual, my heart beats so much for health and education. Ensuring that we have healthy people and awakened people. Back home, we lose 300 children every day and 20 mothers every day giving birth. And these are, the reasons are avoidable. You know, we have a population where you will find in one parish, you're going to find 15 churches and not a single school. That goes to education. We need to awaken our people. Could go on and on and on. But our main agenda now, I find no reason to talk about the policies, because we've had that again and again and again. We just want to ensure that power is in the hands of the people so that they can look at two leaders, present their policies, and they say, we want this one or that one, and that choice will actually matter. That's what we want.
Thank you so much for that, Honorable. So our last question before we turn it over to the general audience is to do with global partners. So we're currently going or seeing significant shifts on the global stage, which include the withdrawal of aid, financial aid to different countries in Africa and other parts of the world. And some of those funds have been pivotal to supporting different movements aimed at democracy promotion and human rights promotion as well. Now, you know, you've been engaging with global partners in different parts of the world, but also here in the United States. You have made consultations and presentations or submissions to political leaders in Washington, D.C. What are your thoughts on these changes, especially the withdrawal of aid, and what role do you see international partners playing during this period and also moving forward into the future?
Well, I don't know if this is the right time for me to grab this opportunity and make it clear that we are not being funded by any Western power, any Western individual, or any Western government. But we appreciate that they let us hide in their country. I say this because the first time I showed up, and I had run not to Kenya, not to Tanzania, not to Zimbabwe, but to America, the regime propagandists started labeling me an agent of the West and neo-colonialism because I ran to the West to save my life. So I thought it's important to mention that and to debunk the dictatorial talk of, oh, now Bobi Wine and all opposition leaders are funded by the colonialists to come and destabilize Ugandan government and all that kind of nonsense that they say. But I also hasten to mention that until recently, Uganda was getting up to $1 billion in terms of aid and military support. Now this is the money that is actually used to subjugate and oppress our people. We come to these countries because we know that we might not be talking just to the administration in Washington, But talking to the ordinary American is equally as effective. Why? Because the people have a voice here. When people call out their leaders to stop supporting something that is against their values, it works. In the 80s and early 90s, before the fall of apartheid, it took a documentary about apartheid to be showed here in America. Before that, Mandela was called a terrorist by Britain. I remember the British Prime Minister then, Margaret Thatcher, defined Nelson Mandela as a terrorist. And America was still in support of the apartheid government until it was put in the face of the moral Americans that actually apartheid is evil and apartheid failed. We find it very necessary to come to these development partners and to tell the Americans, both the administration and the citizens, the administration to the citizens of America, you are actually paying for our death. You are sponsoring mass murder in Uganda and other parts of Africa. You might not know that, but you are doing that through your taxpayers' money, $1 billion of which is given to Museveni. So you would do good to help us from the comfort of your living room or your car by tweeting about it to ensure that your leaders, your senators, your congressmen and women know that what is being done is wrong and the American taxpayer knows. But also to reach out to the administration there to ensure that that stops. So that brings me to your question. The funding, the donations, the aid. I will tell you that the aid that is being given to Uganda is not doing what you and ordinary Americans think. It is used for regime survival. And regime survival back home means killing people, means subjugating people, means abusing human rights, means abusing democracy. And America has laws, it has values that it stands for. You have the global Magnitsky, which can be invoked. So we come here not to pose off as people that know, but at least we know a little bit of the tools that you can use to help us stand for the same values that you guys stand for. What brings us together as citizens of the world, as the international community, are values of democracy, rule of law, and human rights. Why don't you evoke them? I remember a while ago, well, I will not go there. But why don't I go there? If it is risky. Mama said I don't. But my main point here is that we are not asking the Americans to come and save us. No. We are only asking them to stop sponsoring our oppression, to disassociate with it. We appreciate the aid that we are being given. But please, condition that aid. Put conditions of respect for democracy on that aid. I met a brother from Arua. When I was in Arua for a political rally, I was shot at. My car was shot at, and my driver was killed. The gun that was used to kill my driver is an American gun. In 2021, when you see that documentary, it's on Hulu. The police trucks that were running over our supporters. Imagine in a political rally, but because a soldier is so annoyed that this guy that's running against his boss, the president, is so popular, they drive a truck and run over innocent supporters. Now that truck has a writing, Danish aid, on it. And so, I mean, that is supposed to infuriate any moral mind. That does not happen in Europe. I know that Europe also has some dictators. We know of a guy called Lukashenko. And you cannot see an American president or a president from any democracy standing shoulder to shoulder with them. But Mohozi will torture somebody, he will kill somebody and proudly tweet about it, and the next moment he's standing shoulder to shoulder with either the American ambassador or an ambassador from a democracy, and it's normal. Why is that normal? Why is it that the level, the standard of human rights in Uganda or any other part in Africa, Eritrea also, why is it that that standard is lower than the standard in Europe. If Lukashenko killed 10 people or 20 people and tweeted, proud of that, the whole Europe will be infuriated. If another European leader did what Museveni does in Uganda, I'm sure he wouldn't be in power the next month. So, what is that supposed to communicate to us? Is it because that Ugandan blood is endless? And my mama told me not to go there. Thank you.
All right, we're going to open it up for Q&A.
Thank you very much. My name is Godwin. I'm a master of public policy student here at the Goodman School of Public Policy, and I'm originally from Ghana. And
Akwaba.
Thank you. Enya. All right. I have one question for you. Many young people follow your activism from various countries, and I am one of those young people. I came across some other young people that have expressed some form of pessimism towards your activism. And their thoughts have been that when you get to finally lead Uganda, you may follow similar systems and similar systems. I believe some of those young people may be here in this room today. What message do you have for these young people? This may not be their fault, but rather a reflection of their dwindling hope in the governance systems across the continent. What message do you have for them today?
Do we take 2-3 questions at once?
I'm sorry, if you could...
Duncan was closer. Duncan, what did
I was saying, do we take 3 questions at once, or you just want to answer one?
If you could help, I want to understand the question better.
Okay. Oh, he said, sorry.
Yeah. I was saying that there are some young people here today that have expressed pessimism towards your activism for...
Pessimism?
Yes, towards your activism for the liberation of the people of Uganda. And their idea has been that when you get into power, you may do some similar things that are being done by the current regime. And I am saying that this may not be their fault, but it is because there is dwindling hope in the governance systems across the continent. But once you are here today, some of those young people could be in this room today. What message do you have for them?
Thank you. If I may request that we make it conversational. Yeah, thank you very much. I love that question. Many, not only young people, but many people are pessimistic. And rightly so. You see, I'm 44 now. When General Museveni was my age, he was speaking exactly like I speak, and probably even more eloquent. We have seen so many revolutionaries turn bad. I was named after Robert Mugabe. He was a great revolutionary. When I was born, he was an amazing person. But see what he turned to. By the time he died, he was a despised dictator. And the more reason why I don't like to be called a politician. Don't trust them. Don't trust me. And I always tell people that I'm not here to liberate you. Let us liberate ourselves. General Museveni treats us like property because every now and then he says, oh, I liberated you. So I'm not here to liberate anybody. I'm here to charge all of you so that we liberate ourselves. When we do it as a generation, nobody, not even myself, will ever come and say, oh, I'm entitled to rule you for life because I liberated you. And I also want you to know It has been said before, I'm only repeating it, that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Power corrupts everywhere in the world. You see, even here in America, or Europe, or other countries, the leaders do the right thing not because they are very good people. No, it's because the citizens are not going to take any crap. And I can tell you, anywhere in the world, even here in America, democracy is always on the verge of breaking down. It takes strong people. That is why, for us, our agenda is to strengthen our population so that if the bug bites me or those that come after me, people will be able to stand up to them. So we don't want to build strong people, we want to build strong systems that will hold them accountable. That's what we believe in. Maybe Bobi wants to add.
At 35, he promised me a retirement. That was when we were 35. Now, I will make sure we retire while we still have energy to walk on our feet.
And she's tough.
I think it's me. Yeah. Hello, my name is Jane Mangoangar, and I'm doing my PhD in political science. But I'm originally from Kenya, from Busia, actually. And I have maybe two very short questions. The first question that I have is, so I met Museveni in Korea, like in 2018. He had come with his people, and we went to see him speak. And people were asking him questions, and when it was time for him to give his speech, he went into this very long speech about colonialism, and he just talked about colonialism. And I think I was very surprised because I felt like they were asking him about, when we go back to Uganda, because a lot of them were international students, they were like, how will we find employment? Or how will we find a future? And the whole conversation and the answer he was giving was about colonialism. And I was wondering, in your perspective, like how do you balance this? Like this conversation of, because we know that the effects of colonialism have affected Africa, and there's still neocolonialism and there's still all these problems. But at what point do you think that our leaders can begin to, take accountability and think about these problems as results of policies they have made? And when are they allowed to talk about colonialism so that it doesn't feel like they're hiding behind the West and blaming the West? Then the second very short question is, in terms of Uganda, I'm thinking, and you said you're from Uganda, right? In terms of like the royal family and the church in Uganda and the university institutions like Makerere, where a lot of our great African leaders came from, especially during like the colonial period. I wonder how you feel these institutions relate to the movement that is trying to bring change. And for you personally, is Makerere helping you? How about the royal family, and how about the Christian churches? Thank you.
You want to go first, Mama? Well, about Museveni and his answers, well, he talked about colonialism. He did not talk about 1934 and 1976 and when we took power in 86 and all that. Colonialism is a classic excuse for African dictators. I'm very much against colonialism, and I believe there should even be reparations. But that is for another day. Now we are here. I was born in 1982, 20 years after colonialism ended, because we got our independence in 1962. Many countries have gone past that. Look at Singapore. I mean, once upon a time, we gave aid to Dubai. But now, it has been 63 years, coming to 64, after we got independence. We've been independent for 63 years. But out of those 63 independent years, General Museveni has ruled us for 40 years. 40. I was 4 years when he took power. 90, maybe 99% of the audience here was not born. So, to see that he blames everything on colonialism is trying to touch our emotional nerve. I mean, every time you look at Uganda, richly endowed with natural resources, but underdeveloped, you cannot help but look back at what was stolen from us. But I mean, what was stolen from us by colonialism is like 1,000 gallons of water stolen from a lake. We still have what it takes to transform our country and our lives. Why is it not transformed? Because we have leaders that are not answerable to us. They always bring, if they don't bring colonialism, they are going to bring neocolonialism. No wonder their only card against us is being agents of the West. So, don't be surprised. That is the same script that Robert Mugabe used to read from. It's the same script that many other dictators read from until people outdate it. Now, what was the second question? Oh, how helpful. Oh, yeah, how helpful has the kingdoms, the church, Makerere University, and others. Well, I love to talk good about my country and the institutions therein, but I like it better when I'm honest. And I'll tell you that not only the institutions of state have been reared impotent, excuse my choice of words, but so are the other institutions, including religious institutions. I am a Muganda, a very proud Muganda from the mighty Buganda kingdom. But even our king mentioned it sometime, that he has been disempowered. And indeed, many times we are culturally slapped in the face when one of us is abducted on our own soil, in our own territory. And Museveni's son says, I am torturing this Muganda man because I'm teaching him Runyankore. Now, Runyankore is the language of the tribe where Museveni comes from. That's where my wife comes from too. But he does not do it on behalf of my wife or on behalf of the Banyankore. And I mean, I think God planned it to make us come together. Otherwise, we are the single most devastating blow against tribalism in Uganda. Every time we talk about tribalism, look at how beautiful we are together. In the same way, the church and other religious institutions, those that stood, many of them have been bought out. They will talk about somebody that is demanding for a political prisoner, but because they use the F word in their tweet, there will be a sermon about that. But there will not be a sermon about a woman that was raped by the military, or a woman that has been disappeared by the military. As we speak right now, my personal assistant had his house raided. His house was abducted on camera by Uganda People's Defense Forces. What did I say? His house? House wife. I never mind the joke. My personal assistant, Sheriff Naja, had his house raided. The wife was taken away by the military. Today it is 32 days. Nobody knows where she is. No statement from the military, no statement from the police. We went to court about that. The court issued a demand of habeas corpus, an order of habeas corpus. The military ignored it. Now this is a woman that has been taken to military barracks and kept incommunicado. The same thing happened to two women, my deputy president Northern Uganda and deputy president Western Uganda. They were picked by the military and kept in a military barracks with men for 3 weeks. Now all this is happening in full glare of the church and all these other moral voices. But absolute silence. Like I was saying, many of them have been compromised. But even those that are firm and standing to their values have been constantly intimidated. I'll give you a quick example. Dr. Kizza Besigye, a very respectable opposition leader who was abducted from Kenya, illegally extradited to Uganda, illegally paraded in a military court, and is in prison now. There was an arranged service for him, a prayer service. And General Museveni called the Archbishop and ordered that that service should not take place. And people were in church like this. And the service did not go on because the president has ordered that there will be no prayer on that day until he investigates that prayer. I'm not even joking. I'm using the exact words that he used. So now you see how disempowered the church is, half disempowered, half compromised. The same happens to our cultural institutions. Now, Makerere University gives hope because they are young and they are defiant. But again, all these institutions have been staffed with sycophantic administrators. The students, because they're young and they can dare to risk, are the remaining voice. We are glad they are younger. That means the hope is younger. It's not dying out. It's only burning brighter. Thank you. Sorry I took long. Yes. Bobi was, please say that.
Yeah, I was reminding him to make a bit of a compromise, to give us, you have to see the good in the bad sometimes. We have some individuals in these institutions who speak about these things on an individual basis. They stand on their own, not guided by the institutions, but as human beings, and use the platform they have to speak about the things that are not going right. And we appreciate them because they are bold and they have an audience who they speak to and they are heard.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm very glad Bobi mentioned that. I unfortunately forgotten to mention those noble people. We have a priest called the Reverend Musiufu. He speaks truth to power. We have activists like Dr. Sarah Birete. They speak truth to power. We have Muslim leaders that speak truth to power. We even have some cultural leaders that speak truth to power. Of course, this comes at immense risk, but they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Derek Bukenya. I'm from Uganda. I have a very simple question directly to you, Mr. President. As the youth have supported you, but we are seeing very many youth dying every day. Museveni's son is tweeting, killing. Actually, I'm one of the survivors of the persecutions in Uganda. I ran away, and I don't care. I saw somebody die when he was campaigning. So, are you going to continue with the struggle since now we are seeing that everything is failing? They have done everything against your the best friend you're having, your wife. You've said it. Your best friends are in prison. We don't see any future that they are going to get out of the prisons. Many people are disappearing. You are now also here. We don't have hope. Uganda is like now a place without a father. Are you going back, or you're gonna stay here, fight the struggle while you're here, or you're going back to face the barbaric Muhozi? Thank you very much.
Thank you. My favorite, when I was growing up, my favorite movie star was Arnold Schwarzenegger. And my favorite line was, "I'll be back." So I guess I've answered you, right? I'll be back.
You know, you can't kill voices. You cannot stop people who have a truth to say. You and I might be out here, but there are more voices back home. As long as things are not going right, people will keep fighting for what they think is right and is supposed to be done right. I believe that this struggle will continue until Uganda is liberated, whether it is us finishing it or younger people finishing it or anyone else, but it will end in the end. And you know what they say? They say that when the struggle is over, we shall wear the victor's crown.
That's right.
Yeah, we shall wear the victor's crown in the end. I know the youth are fighting, and they will fight until the end.
Oh, hi, I'm Sharon Washira from Kenya, and I had a question. You said you're not a politician, you're a freedom fighter, and you're trying to liberate the people so that you can change the system. But we have seen the system in Uganda is already problematic, having a successor always overthrowing a dictator. What system specifically is it that you want to change? And if you're not a politician, who do you believe should be the next leader? Is it another politician, you as a freedom fighter, or what is your take on that?
Thank you. There's what I believe, and there's then what defines what I'm doing. I said I don't like to be called a politician. I don't like it. Not because it may be outside Uganda, but back home, the word politician lost meaning. If I was not married yet and I went to Bobi and said I'm a politician, believe me, I would stay unmarried for a few more years. So I don't like to be called a politician. Unfortunately, I had to get involved in politics. And when you get involved in politics, you're operating like a politician. Look how I'm dressed. I don't like this. You should have seen me a few years ago. I was cool. So, much as I don't want to be called a politician, like I said a few years ago, the parliament refused to come to the ghetto, so the ghetto went to the parliament. You know, I'm still learning how to walk like a formal person. I'm still learning to speak straight English so that I can fit the role. All this I'm doing to make the masses there that we are feeling disconnected, the barbers, the musicians, the farmers, to know that actually politics is their thing. And these people that are running politics are doing it in their name. What do we want to change? Number one, we want to change the balance of power to ensure that power goes back to the hands of the people, and it is the people that lend these politicians the power and can take it back and give it to somebody to serve them better. We want to turn things around and make sure the politicians are serving the people and not the other way around. That is what we want to change. We want to take it back. We want this lawyer, this intellectual to be answerable to me, the barber, to me, the musician, to me, the farmer. And if you don't, we shall vote you the hell out. We want to be able to vote people in and to vote them out. When we have that, I can wear my dreadlocks. My common people would still listen to me, and I tell them, vote that idiot out because he stole our money. And they will do that. So we want to empower the population. I don't know if I answer your question right. Basically, that's what we want to change. Mama, you want to help me? I'm good. She says I'm good.
Good to see you. We are very glad to have you. My name is Jocelyn Nantumeluzige, and I'm a pre-med student over here in San Francisco. My question is going to go beyond Uganda, but to go to Africa as a continent. And my question will be, I have the belief that right now, Africa as a continent needs unification. And that goes without even saying, because we've seen the things that are happening right now where the Western world or this nation has pulled aid from African nations. And my question to you is going to be, you are not only a national sensation in Uganda, but you have now become an international or global sensation. And when I base on the Bible says that to whom much is given, much is required. And as the young people that are Ugandans, that are over here and have the hope of going back home to add something to our nation, if you are the person that one day is chosen to represent us, what is your view about Africa unification, about the unification of Africa as a continent, to eliminate all these things that have been sold to us as a continent about what we can or cannot do? Because if we look at all of everything that Africa is, we have all the resources, we have all it takes to be the greatest continent in the world, but yet we are in such a place whereby all the nations in Africa, right, most of them are considered third world countries. So what is your take on the unification of Africa, and what will be your contribution? Thank you.
I think that shouldn't have come as a question, because what other answer can an African give when asked whether or not Africa should unite? You know, Africa's unification is way, way, way overdue. In any case, the segmentation of Africa was not our doing. No, it was not. No African nation was represented in 1884 in the Berlin Conference, no. And the division of Africa was to our detriment. Unfortunately, more than 60 years after independence, we've not focused on that. Why? Because of greed of some of our leaders. I'll take you back to the words of the great Kwame Nkrumah. He suggested that. Unfortunately, those that came after him have been suggesting that, but only in words, not in action. What unites people? What unites me and my wife to become one is not just her beauty or my cuteness, if at all it's there. It is the values. My country cannot unify with yours when I have regular, free, and fair elections and you are a dictatorship. Africa needs to embrace values first and foremost. And then we can unify. And the unification will not take even so much. So Africa must unite. But before uniting, we have to be free. We have to be free. Today, the unification of Africa is seen by the individuals that rule over us. The East African community, for example, if I'm starting from there, is not a community of people. It is a club of presidents where Museveni and Ruto and Suru will sit and have coffee and decide that, okay, now abduction of citizens should be the new policy. And it will go on like that. That further divides us. It does not unite us, right? Because it confines the Kenyans to Kenya, the Tanzanians to Tanzania, the Ugandans to Uganda. By now, I would be in exile in Kenya. In the 80s, when our fathers and mothers were fighting against Idi Amin and the governments before, they did not have to run all the way to America. They just crossed to Kenya. They just crossed to Tanzania. Well, not anymore. Dr. Besigye was picked from Kenya illegally, and now he's in prison. So before we talk about uniting, we don't want to unite devils. Let us free these our countries, and then we can unite as proud Africans.
Nantume is your sister?
That's right.
You come from the same tribe. And I want you to give us a cappella that goes to what she asked about and what you explained. A bit from xenophobia. There is a part that speaks about the uniting of Africa.
For purposes of keeping my marriage, I will give you the cappella.
And singing for
Well,
your
this
sister.
is, I was saying this on behalf of the Africans. And I was saying, it was not our choice in 1884. In a Berlin, when they sit on the table in the scramble and partition for African land, now we are living by the borderlines. It would be easier if I never had to get a visa to see my little sister in Tunisia or Namibia. But look here, Africa tuko mtu moja. Why are we divided by the borderlines? And why can't we see it's divide and rule? Why don't we see its colonial tool, the African unity becoming a reality? We must abolish the borderlines, but before abolishing the borderlines, we must kick away the dictators.
Thank you for, that was a wonderful a cappella, and thank you for the conversation today. I have one question. And you spoke about social media and how we should tweet, we should comment on social media on the happenings in Uganda. I have seen how social media in contemporary times has been used as a tool of victimization and surveillance against a lot of people. Now, calling on us to back you, which we would gladly do you still see this in these times as something that could be possible? If I am afraid of being victimized or surveilled, and maybe not even getting a visa to travel and run away. And what is the end goal? Not for the Ugandan people, but for you personally, if we should back you.
Thank you. What's your name, my sister?
Eva Hagman from Ghana.
From Ghana. Wonderful. You come from Ghana. Ghana for so long, I believe up to now, has been called the beacon of democracy in Africa. So I would not expect you to even have words associated with fear of speaking the truth, especially when you come from Ghana. We have people from Eritrea speaking the truth. And secondly, I also want to disagree with what you said, that I'm calling on you to back me up. Guys, this is not my mission. This is our mission. In fact, it's more of your mission than my mission. I'm much older than you guys. You are much younger, so you're stuck here on this earth longer. This has to be owned by all of us. Now, if we believe it's the right thing, let us first persuade ourselves. Is standing for democracy the right thing to do? Is standing for human rights the right thing to do? Is standing for the rule of law the right thing to do? And then other questions can come. How? When? Of course, Dr. King already answered that question, that the time is always right to do what is right. I'm glad I'm speaking to intellectuals, to university students. You guys are the ones that are supposed to be doing this that I'm doing, not me. Me, I only tapped into this fame that people were listening to me. They were listening to me when I was encouraging them to go out and dance, to spend on the Beamer and the Benz and drink wine and chill with the girls, until I realized that this voice could do much better. But you intellectuals are more knowledgeable than myself. And 20, 30 years from now, you probably will not forgive yourselves. When people like Kwame Nkrumah and all these other founding fathers were your age, and with an opportunity like this, they were scratching their heads for Africa. Those are the guys that came back to Africa to end colonialism. You are the Osajefos of today. You are the Nyereres of today. You have gotten the opportunity to come to University of California, Berkeley. You've gone to these special universities. You are what your countries have. You'll find you're not more than 20 Ghanaians here. Not more than 20 South Sudanese here. So you are the cream. And these things that we're saying now are supposed to be your duty. So don't say you are backing me. No. What if I die? What if I get tired? What if I get scared? What if my family says, no, Daddy, you've offered enough? So this is a case where one candle lights another, and another, and another, and another. Let us own this. And when we own it, it will make more sense. It will become a duty for us. I like my sister Nantume, what she said. It's an African thing. Now, today, Uganda is only a case study. But I'm sure my brother from Eritrea, if he was the one sitting here, he would be speaking the same things, or maybe more. And about social media, for us, we would say now, it is our only platform of communication. But it is safe also. It is safe because you use it from the comfort of your place, of your car, of your room, and it goes much further than the censored traditional media. So use it. Don't have no fear. There's always fear. I mean, some people die without saying a word. Some people die as we speak right now. There are some people that are dying of floods out of bad governance back home. So, speaking out might be a little bit dangerous, but not as dangerous as it's presented. But in any case, you are out of the country, man. Speak. Speak. You know, don't have no fear. Fear means, my mother used to tell us when we were young, that fear is an abbreviation that can be answered in two ways. Either forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So choose one. What do you choose? I'll choose the latter. Yeah. So that's it, my sister. Don't fear. Speak.
Sorry, I need to add something small, just to encourage you. You know, as women, we have a strength that is unseen, and we are good at organizing. You don't just have to go to social media to post. You can actually organize people to post if you fear to post. There are so many things you can do to organize, to have yourself participate in the betterment of your country. You are the Asata of today. Oh, yeah. You are the Winnie Mandela of today. Oh, yeah. You know the women of Liberia who had a big mobilized group of women who prayed the devil out. Yeah. Women can do things in big ways. And I would encourage you to look into yourself. There is something you're very good at, and you should use it for the betterment of your country and of Africa, because I know you're in a place where you can do much bigger than the people who are back home.
Bobi and Babi, thank you so much for coming here today. My name is Maria Nagawa. I'm a postdoctoral scholar at Stanford University. I study how governments work. My question, and I'm a proud daughter of a Muganda man and a Munyankore woman. So my question is about the role of women. So thank you, Babi, for bringing that up. The role of women in the people power movement. What is the role of women, and not just in organizing and being in the background, which is what often happens in these movements? I'm so proud to see Babi here speaking on her own leadership. What's the role of women and the role of women's leadership in the people power movement? And how are these initiatives for women being institutionalized so that at the moment where there perhaps is a revolution, women take on positions of leadership, and not just symbolic, but where they are in a position to make change, to make challenges, and to demand accountability. Thank you.
I am seated next to the president of the National Unity Platform, who has 2 deputy presidents who are female. Now, when he left the country, he left one of them in his office. They could easily impeach him now, because she has all the power. So,
are you inciting them?
So I am saying that it depends on who is at the top and what they are willing to give. Now, we see in the government back home, the government of the NRM, we have a big chunk of women in leadership, but they do not have real power. If Museveni does not sanction anything, it does not happen. Actually, it is happened. We have a shame that's coming with women in leadership back home. They are involved in corruption scandals. They are the ones that are chairing the courts where they deny political prisoners a chance to bail. Waiswa Mufumbiro, Alex, was denied bail to go bury his wife, and the 2 judges in charge of the case are female. We have a DPP who is female. So we have so many women in offices back home, but they do not have the power. I believe if they did have the power, they would have done something about Waiswa's case. But they could do nothing. They have just accepted to be used as puppets, as pawns, as instruments to cause pain. That's a big shame. But what I have seen from the leadership in the National Unity Platform is different. We have leaders at the front, women at the front, women in organization, women in the background. There is women like me who are cooking and ironing for our husbands. And we are doing a very good job because our husbands are coming to work very smart. We have women who are members of parliament, and they are on the floor of parliament representing their constituents without fear and without having to question and ask if that's what they should say from their president. They go with their thoughts and present them because they have been given that power by the people who vote them in. So you shouldn't take it away from them. We have women who are deputy presidents in the National Unity Platform. They have offices in their regions, and those offices decide what's supposed to be done there, and this big office listens to what they have to say. So I believe that it all depends on who is at the top and what they want from the leadership. But women are doing a big job, and they should be respected and given a chance because women are good leaders.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just to add on Mama's, maybe because I'm a feminist, am I? I mean, a person that looks up to women and believes in them, I believe is also a feminist. I'm a mother's child, and I was taught everything that I know by my mother. And I've been able, all through my life, to meet life-changing women. So I am aware of the power of a woman, of the strength of women. And I believe, and I say it many times to my comrades back home, that a powerful and strong woman can accomplish as much as what 50 men can do, because they have that soft power. We tap into that in the National Unity Platform, and women have done a great job. No wonder women are so targeted by the regime back home, more than men. They're threatened with all things, including sexual assault. But in the NUP, we continue to look at women, not only look at them, but charge them with responsibilities which, to date, they've been able to execute, with absolute precision. So yeah, we depend on women, we rely on them, But this is not to mean that we men are not doing a good job. We are doing a good job too. Yeah. But you're doing a better job.
Hopefully, in the near future, you're able to go back and contest a future presidential election. But you also talked about getting rid of the devils. Now, it might be very likely that when you are able to, be in office and get back in power, you'll still have, Kagame in Rwanda and Sisi in Egypt, people who are, supportive of Museveni. How would you engage with them, knowing that, they supported, the regime that brutalized you and your followers, and likely don't want the best for you in Uganda?
Thank you. Yes, I will go back. I will, when I'm president of Uganda, I will relate with all other leaders. I'm not going to start a war with another country just because I disagree with their president. But I strongly believe that it's a possibility that I'll be much younger than those other leaders and bringing more light. And we are told that light can push away darkness. And if it shines brighter, it can even lighten the compound of a neighbor. However, to do that, I want to call upon those citizens of various countries to take charge of their countries. As Ugandans, we want to take charge of Uganda. As you, the Nigerians, you have good people there. For example, I have a brother from Nigeria called Omoyore Shore, who I'm in touch with, and he stands for the same things that I stand with, just like other countries in Africa. And each one of us has a role to play in their country. But most importantly, those people that stand in your countries, Showore would not do anything effective in Nigeria if you young Nigerians that are out here don't stand with him. Tundu Lissu will do nothing in Tanzania if Tanzanians, especially the learned ones, don't help them. Equally, I might not succeed in Uganda and the people that I work with if fellow Ugandans are not the wing beneath our wings. That is the more reason why we come here, to talk to you. I don't know how many times I'll be able to talk to you, because before long, I'll say enough is enough and I'll go back home to face whatever is prepared for me. But for me to survive and to be able to speak, it will largely, once I'm there, I won't have a voice. You will be my voice. I hope that these words that we're sharing will re-echo through you. And that way, we can be able to build synergies and make sure that we push from different angles. Hopefully I've responded to you, my brother. Thank you. You quoted me right. The Western countries have chosen diplomacy over democracy. They've chosen business over human rights. They've given us out. And it's sad. It's disappointing. But I also think it is not smart of them, because you constantly see an inflow of refugees into America, into the Western world. Myself and my wife and my family are the most recent victims. We are pressuring your resources, you Americans. We are becoming a problem. Why? Because you are empowering a problem back home. The vicious circle comes back to them. And it's important that they realize that. We think that we can maintain a good relationship and maintain each other's interests, but not at the cost of the citizens and the rights of the citizens in these African countries. How do we go about this? Now that you are here, let it begin from you. Reach out to various people. Back then, during the days of apartheid, and a brother was driving me, was showing me the revolutionary monuments and streets that are reminiscent of the struggles in the past. But one thing that stuck in my mind, he told me that this place here was a big base for the anti-apartheid struggle. They agitated so much and made it very uncomfortable for the government and administration here to continue supporting apartheid. And I'm sure after apartheid fell, they were also relieved because so many people went back to their countries and stopped pressuring on their resources. So we cannot reinvent the wheel. What we want to do has been done before. Just like liberation, countries have been liberated violently and non-violently. Myself and my team, we choose non-violence. We just need to look back in history and see how those that came before us organized and pressured both home, but even these countries that are empowering those oppressive systems. You come from Cameroon. Cameroon has, I think, Africa's oldest dictator, the world's oldest president, you know, ruling over smart young people like yourself. Same thing, I mean, you might laugh, but don't laugh so hard, especially if you come from Africa. We used to laugh at Zaire. We used to laugh at Congo when it was still called Zaire. They're our border neighbors when they were still under Mobutu Sese Seko, who had ruled them for 20 years and were saying, 20 years? What? Well, they've ruled us now for 40 years. So we need to realize, first and foremost, that we are on our own. In the Baganda culture, we say, Bolaba kukabirako, nga nawe oyongeza. If you've lost somebody and you see a stranger crying for your loved one, you need to cry twice as much. So I want to call upon you Africans that are here. We are on our own. These countries, the United States is not going to help you unless when you make loud noise. And make friends. You are in America. And they are good people. Americans are good people. Enlighten them about the plight back home. Some people are not as knowledgeable about Africa as should be. Let them know the situation back home, and they will understand that their voice also helps. But besides only speaking out, organize, communicate to your teams back home, create teams back home. Look at yourself as a solution because you are a solution. I will disappoint you. The people back home, once you catch a plane and come to the developed world, they start looking at you as a savior. So brother, if you didn't know you were a savior, so start behaving like one. Thank you.
Do we have one last question? Let's do it.
It back to you. All right.
Okay, my name is Chol Deng. I am from South Sudan and Ethiopia, and if you wonder why, because they have divided my land into two. So my questions will go how President Museveni has also ruled beyond Uganda. So for the people here, Museveni is also the first president of South Sudan, if you guys might not know. An example of this was when the special envoy of the AU was sent to go to meet Dr. Riek Machar, who was put in prison with advice coming from the president of Uganda. So he was told to return from South Sudan to Uganda and speak with Museveni so that he may be permitted to meet Dr. Riek Machar. Salva Kiir also hired Ugandan military personnel, their mercenaries and gunships to bomb the children and the women of the Nuer people in South Sudan, in Upper Nile, Unity States, and Jonglei. Museveni's son has been tweeting that if you guys, he was asking the Nuer people to give them some women and 1,000 cows so that he may forgive them, or he may stop helping Salva Kiir to murder his own people. Every single day, gunships fly from Juba to kill innocent women and children. So my question is, how Museveni has been maintaining that power beyond the border, and what people in other African countries, South Sudan and Ethiopia, and also Somalia, can do to stop it?
Maybe you can take the two at once.
Okay, sorry about that. My name is Banke. I'm an American-born Nigerian, and earlier in the conversation, you referenced Singapore as a model, which I believe is salient, not only because of their transition from an unindustrialized nation to an industrialized one, but also because of Lee Kuan Yew's success in eradicating corruption, which I attribute to him not only because of his leadership, but also the fact that he had a cabinet that was very much aligned with his anti-corruption principles. As a Nigerian American, I've seen well-intentioned individuals come into power and become complicit with corruption just due to systemic pressures as well as proximity to corruption. So I'm curious what specific policy changes you will implement to safeguard your administration against this dynamic, to ensure that both you and your government remain accountable, resist corruption, and again, just not replicate these systems and authoritarianism.
Thank you. Well, the language was both black and white. The accent. But I picked a few words, especially the word corruption and the word specific policies. Yeah, basically the best way to deal with all this mess. This is not a policy issue. It's a governance issue. I've said it many times, beautiful, studied, perfect policy proposals have been presented. If they were implemented, I would still have my dreadlocks. I would still be a musician. I am here because what is said is only ending on paper, including the laws. Everything ends on paper. There's no accountability because power is centered in one family. The parliament is effectively in the pocket of General Museveni. The judiciary is in the second pocket of General Museveni. So we need to break that. We need to break that and get accountable leadership. If we don't do that, if we don't empower the people to make the leaders accountable, we are going to be moving in circles, coming here talking very good English and going back and seeing people stealing everything that is there to steal. Break dictatorship, make leaders accountable, make them servants, not bosses, make the citizen own their country, period. The rest, I mean, we'll be making way for you guys. You guys are here studying. You might not be using our money, but you're using our prayers. So you owe it to us. You owe it to Africa to come and do the right thing. For us, we are only doing the heavy lifting so that you have a country. We don't have a country now. So for us to discuss policy now is like asking a slave who wants to break away from slavery and asking them, so where do you want to go? To Canada or to Germany? The slaves just say, I want to get the hell out of slavery. And that is what we want. Give people a voice and a vote. My brother from South Sudan mentioned it, and I could not help but just shudder. Because, I mean, you only fell short of mentioning that General Muhoozi, who is General Museveni's son and the commander of Ugandan military, and takes pride in mocking victims and kills for fun. You know, one time after he asked for cows and women, maybe you didn't give him enough women or cows. And the next tweet, which was also quoted in the UN report of Uganda going to South Sudan and massacring people, killing them with barrel bombs and all that. That and more we continue to face. And we must come together and exert pressure in different ways. Because I'm relating with so many brothers and sisters from South Sudan that want to reown their country. If we don't put an end to that nonsense, my brother, it will continue, I'm sure, and you never imagined it in your life, that somebody who is not even a citizen or an official of your country can kill your people and take pride in that and even tweet about that. So let us do the heavy lifting. And when we were coming, and I was chatting with my wife, in that chat we agreed that the bad guys are so united and they're working together so much to even clean up for each other. I mean, with what Muhoozi is saying, Museveni's son, you should have at least had outrage from African leaders. You don't. You don't. You just don't. This is the army commander, the head of the military of your next door neighbor, and massacres people and tweets about that. And you don't hear anything. He has threatened to raid Kenya. He has threatened to take over South Sudan. Recently, he was threatening to take over Tehran and take and kill all the... I mean, that only speaks of the problem, but we cannot just be mentioning the problem. Maybe it's about time that we, maybe not publicly, but silently, reconverge and see what we can do. There's what we can do publicly, and that's agitating, that's creating enough awareness, that's keeping our plight, the plight of our people in Africa, on the minds, in the eyes of the people, and on the media. But also when we retreat, we must organize, organize, and organize. Like I said much earlier, whatever you see being done was done before, only that it's being done worse now. But our people organized. In the 60s, we got independence. In the 80s, they got rid of the first round of dictators. And now, when we have the internet, when we are interconnected, we can't fail. Let us use everything that we can. Like Malcolm X said, let us use any means necessary to free our people and ourselves.
Thank you so much. So we've reached the end of our event. And at this point, I would like to invite you both to share any final concluding words before we hand it over to Martha to close us out. And in that, I'll plug in a couple of things. What is the future of Bobi Wine's music moving forward? Are we going to see any concerts in the near future here in the United States, back home in Uganda? And also, if you could describe the kind of Uganda that you'd like to see for your children and for your children's children, what does that look like?
Thank you. I'm a musician, guys. Yeah, lest you start looking at me as a politician. No, that Bobi Wine name was a musical name. Although my music was banned in Uganda, yeah, and my concert was banned, my wife and I own a resort beach, the most beautiful in the country. But our businesses were all attacked, as you would expect. I still compose music. I've not recorded lately, but now that I have some time, I may jump into studio and record. My music goes on YouTube and Spotify, so you can only get my music online. Check out my music. Some of it is in my local language, but much of it is in English, so you can pick from that. Music is my first love and was my first earning. I've not been in exile long enough. Maybe when the pockets become drier, I might stage a concert or two. Because I still want to be able to buy a beautiful necklace for my beautiful wife. So the music will still come. About Uganda, I love my country. That country called Uganda is and no disrespect to other countries, but you will agree with me that Uganda is the most beautiful country on the face of the earth. Winston Churchill concluded that Uganda is the pearl of Africa. That is where the great river Nile begins from. We have the biggest freshwater lake in the world, Lake Narubale, the one they call Lake Victoria. We have the most beautiful weather. The food, oh my God. Look at the women we have. So, look at the ones in the audience. So Uganda is extremely, extremely beautiful, only mismanaged. And with better governance, we can turn our country into the best destination in the world. Our tourism is amazing. We have the rarest gorillas. Right now, there's a civil war of gorillas going on. Yes, in Uganda. So we have amazing, amazing things. I can talk about Uganda for a whole week non-stop. But for that country to be what we envision, we need to change change governance, to turn it into a free country that offers equal opportunity to all citizens, regardless of their tribe, of their gender, of their background, of their second name. We want to leverage our tourism. We want to leverage our youthful population, the talent that we have. And all that begins with governance. That is what we struggle for. And we believe we're going to get there because we have a lot of talented, knowledgeable, and qualified people. I travel the world. Everywhere I go, not only in universities, in hospitals, you'll find Ugandan doctors working. In India, in Germany, you'll find Ugandan professors here at University of California, Berkeley, everywhere. When we fix our country, we shall have an amazing population that is scattered all over the world. Come back home to develop our country. That is going to happen in our lifetime. That is what we're struggling for. And finally, that is but just a wish to ensure that the massive wealth, recently the biggest gold deposit in the world was discovered in Uganda. On top of the rare earth minerals and the oil and all that, we can use that to transform our country. But to be able to do that, it is not going to be a miracle. My mother told me that God can only do for you what he can do through you. So God is already trying to use us. Present yourselves. Everyone will have to play their role. Every one of you can play a role. Every one of you. Reach out to those that you know. Make sure that people know about Uganda, about South Sudan, about Cameroon. Let people know about Africa, about your home. To you, the Ugandans, let us build teams internationally. You are students of political science, majority of you. You are students of history. You've seen it historically, that all these countries that have been liberated, the biggest force comes from the diaspora. You are those revolutionaries that liberated South Africa or Zimbabwe or Kenya or Uganda in the 60s and the 80s. Now it is you. Now this is our time now. Use it. Build synergies. Connect with home. Make sure you are in constant connection and communication with home. That will show you what has to be done. I cannot start lecturing you on what has to be done. You guys have read more books than I've read. And you have a bird's eye view on your countries, especially you fellow Ugandans. So do something. While I'm speaking to Ugandans, I believe the Eritreans, the Somalians, the South Sudanese, the Nigerians, the Ghanaians, all Africans are picking from what I'm saying. Our problems are similar, and our solutions are similar. Finally, Kwame Nkrumah said that the liberation of one country in Africa cannot be detached from the liberation of another. If you are living in Kenya and you think you're if you're living in Ghana and you think it's okay because there's democracy, remember that there was democracy in Tanzania a while ago, that there was pseudo-democracy in Kenya a while ago, until a dictatorship was, exported. So democracy is constant work in progress. Dictatorship in one country threatens democracy in another, however distant. So keep doing what you can do. Create as much awareness about your home country as can be, and make friends here who can help us make noise. Use the internet as much as you can. Tag your senators, your congressmen and women. Tell them to stop sponsoring terror in Africa. Tell them to stop behaving in a way that borders on racism. Yes, I said that word. Because if the standard of democracy and human rights in Africa is seen as acceptable while people are being killed, then I don't know if there's anything worse than racism. Why don't I stop there? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tata. In Africa, when the head of the house has spoken, the rest of us don't have much to say.
But you're the neck.
I'll take this opportunity to thank the Center for African Studies for hosting this discussion and for organizing it. I hope you benefited from it and that you'll go back to better students. We want to appreciate all of you who put off the time to come and join us. Please keep coming to such arrangements because there is a lot more that we can learn from each other. Finally, I want to encourage you to organize, to be together, because the people who crush voices of dissent, the people who muzzle our thoughts and our voices, the people who cluster us as the group that they can trample on, together. So we have to be together as well to fight back. And we are the majority, so let's use the numbers and let's keep organizing because they are more organized than we think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And stay blessed.
Please join us in thanking Bobi and Barbie.